This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
Hi, my name is Igor Kheifets, and this is the List Building Lifestyle, the only podcast which delivers cutting-edge conversion strategies from the online trenches straight to your earbuds. Download the transcript of today's episode and all future episodes at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. I also invite you to grab a free copy of the Wealthy List Builder Survival Guide at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com/survival. And now, once again, it's time to claim your list building lifestyle.
Welcome back to another edition of List Building Lifestyle. Here I have the daddy of list builders himself, Mr. Igor Kheifets. What is up, my man?
The daddy of list builders, man. The big daddy of list builders.
You're going to have all kinds of new nicknames by the time we're done here, right?
You know, man, like I remember someone saying claim a title, like in influence or persuasion. They say you should claim a title. Like John Carlton's like the world's most ripped off copywriter, and you know, Ben's got the world's leading authority on email. You know, you're the podcasting authority, etc. You know, but you know, the big daddy of list building. Even for me, I think that's a bit over the top.
Come on, wear the crown proudly.
Thank you.
So, Igor, what do you have for us today, buddy?
Well, what I want to talk about is this phenomena which I spotted, which of course I was guilty of myself back in the day when I was starting out, where, you know, everybody's looking for like the amazing new thing that's going to create instant lasting results. However, everyone seems to ignore the stuff that's been like field tested for decades and even centuries, which actually works. In other words, you know, in search of success in life and business, people often kind of neglect the ancient teachings in favor of bright, shiny objects and bright, shiny methods. So they end up chasing like whatever's new, whatever's fresh. However, that is one of the reasons why they end up frustrated, why they get stuck without results, because usually, about 99% of the time, the new, exciting, shiny stuff doesn't really work.
Why do you suppose people are always looking for that new stuff?
Honestly, man, I don't know. But all I do know is everyone wants instant lasting change, and that seems to never happen. You know, I still haven't come across a solution that creates instant change, that like overnight.
I got one.
Seriously?
Yeah, death.
Oh, yeah.
You want instant change? There you go.
No one says going to be positive change, hey? So anyway, everyone's just busy chasing new, exciting things because it really takes work to get in, you know, kind of get with the program, if you will. It really takes work to stick to something. And maybe it has to do with the fear of failure, maybe fear of success, but it's easier to start a brand new thing. It's easier to start a brand new project. It's easier to abandon something you start working on and move into something new and exciting. And, you know, I see it a lot even for myself right now when it comes to reading. Like my Kindle is bursting with unread books. However, I keep buying more and kind of abandoning books midway through in favor of the new ones. I'm not sure why I do that.
But I'm going to give you credit because at least you started the books. And there's a lot of people out there, voracious readers and people that I'm sure we both have studied. And you don't have to read every bit of a book. All you have to do is get at least one thing out of that book and put it down. So if you're at least cracking open the book and reading it, that's a step in the right direction, in my opinion.
Yeah, it really, you know, most books do come down to just one idea, unless we're talking about really dense books like Dan Kennedy stuff, for example. Like Dan Kennedy gives you a golden nugget every 5 to 7 pages. But most books do come down to one idea. And my mentor, Tom Beal, actually has this. He says, make the book your bitch. So, you know, he often doesn't read the entire book. All he needs is just one big idea, which the book tries to deliver. And he just moves on to the next one. And I didn't know that when I started working with him. But later, when kind of realized that the guy's reading 5 to 7 books at a time, I'm like, what the hell? Like, what's your secret? So, he kind of disclosed the whole make the book your bitch tip.
That sounds like a new info product.
you know, I almost wanted to say, make the lister bitch, but then I was like, no, this just nah, doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel right. It's gonna go against what we're preaching here on the show.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. So, all right. So people are getting caught up in bright, shiny objects. And I think it's something interesting that you said there that I want to just circle back to for just 1 second is you said fear of failure and also fear of success. So is fear of success really a thing?
Well, actually, it is. I've experienced fear of success several times in my life, and it really comes down to what's going to happen if this actually works. Like people who want to quit their day job and start an online business. What happens if the business actually works? Will I be able to deal with the responsibilities? Will I be able to let go of my job? Will I be able to kind of handle the lifestyle of making money while traveling? Like fear of success is a big thing, oftentimes just as big as the fear of failure. Because, again, the responsibility of carrying that weight on your shoulders and having no more excuses is a big one. And people find it tough to deal with it psychologically.
No kidding. Just let that sit for a second. Fear of success is a thing. You can't win in life here. So, Igor, why then are people skipping out on the old stuff, like the stuff that you and I have studied, ancient stuff, from the 1900s? Why are people ignoring that stuff that has been proven to work over the last 100 years?
Well, I think that happens because people don't get this one thing, which says technology changes, industries change, but human nature doesn't change. In other words, when it comes to business, when it comes to marketing, when it comes to selling, every single dollar you make will come from someone else's pocket, from another person's pocket. So if all it comes down to is human nature, then that stuff did not change for centuries. For centuries. So why look for the next, bright shiny object if people are exactly as they've been for the last couple of 100 years or maybe a couple of 1,000 years? I mean, even like I was watching Braveheart with my wife the other day with Mel Gibson, and it happens in like 1500s or 1400s or something when England is fighting Scotland for independence, or well, vice versa. Scotland is uprising against England, and it really comes down to the most basic human emotions and most basic human desires. In fact, the same desire that drove the Mel Gibson character William Wallace to kind of rise up against the tyranny of the English is very similar to what leads guys like you and me to rise up against the tyranny of a boss or a limitation of a paycheck. It's the hatred. It's all the negative emotion. It's the inability to be a free man or a free woman, right? It's all the same shit. Only back in the day, the way they claimed their freedom was by killing other people, right? And then the way we do it today is just making a lot of money.
That's great, man. And so I'm thinking about this and I'm wondering if maybe the people that are making all the money are the ones that realize that it's human nature, basic human needs, and they're putting that into their marketing and preying on the people that are unaware and distracting them from what really matters.
Well, it's a really tough one. When it comes to marketing, you can do it several different ways, and we do talk a lot about like what's the best way to approach your target market. And oftentimes, it's not about being factual; it's more about appealing to those emotions, right? And we've spoken about several times. We talked about how I'm driven pretty much 90% of the time by negative emotion. That like it's impossible to get me to do anything by waving the carrot in front of me. You have to use the stick. So when it comes to marketing, sure, there's a bunch of marketing out there which is really, really unethical. However, at the same time, I believe you have to get creative about overcoming the barriers that people place in the way of making a decision which ends up changing their life. So for instance, I got this back problem. I got a problem in my lower back, and it really, really got really bad in the last couple of weeks. So my friends kept telling me go see a professional, like a chiropractor. Now, I didn't want to go. Why? I don't know. Maybe I was lazy. Maybe I was afraid he's gonna twist my back and break it. Maybe I was afraid of the diagnosis, which is gonna be like a lifelong condition, which leads to paralysis or something. It's back. It's your spine. Like things can be really bad if you're not careful. So it took me 2 weeks of being just in excruciating pain. And oftentimes I had to work lying down on the sofa because I couldn't sit or stand at all. Like I spent days just lying on the sofa working because I just couldn't do anything else. It was this pain, in addition to my inability of moving, that led me to finally giving in and comment to that doctor. So now I realize that if I was that doctor, if I was the chiropractor, right, and I had to convince patients to come and see me or to, pay for treatment or do the exercise, which he, insists you got to do, like an hour of like yoga type of exercise to strengthen your spine, like I would use fear every step of the way. I would not be a positive doctor. You know, I would be painting pictures of how if you don't handle this right now, 2 years from now, you're going to be in a wheelchair. Or if you don't handle this right now, you're going to be, you're going to lose your ability to move around. Or if you don't handle this right now, you're not going to be able to pick up your kid 2 months from now and throw her up in the air, which I like doing, you know? So these are the kind of things that would lead to any patient finally doing something about their condition. Because if all you talk about is, wouldn't you want to never feel pain again? It's not the same thing, at least not for me. Like, you have to tie this pain to being a bad father. You have to tie this pain to, like, being a bad husband. You have to tie this pain into being, like, 30% of the kind of human being you can be, etc., etc., etc. You know what I mean, Jonathan? Like, you have to
Yeah.
take it deeper than just back pain.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, really, it depends on the marketer, whether they're ethical or not. And let's stick with the doctor example. It's really his duty to improve your life. So whatever he has to do to get you there is what he has to do, because that's going to make your life better. So the doctor is an ethical doctor just trying to improve your situation. So I see what you're saying. And I know you're an ethical marketer. That's why we get along so well. So what would you say to people just starting out? I mean, there's a new Pinterest course out. There's an Instagram course. Is that where they start, or where would you tell them to start?
Well, you know what? I would not go for the bright shiny new thing. So if the strategy they're attempting is less than 2 or 3 years old, I would not actually waste time. Not because it doesn't work, but because it's not proven as a more established strategy is. Like, for example, list building has been working for like what, 2 decades now.
Yeah.
I think the first ebook or the first list that was like registered on the 95 or 96. So that's proven. Like 20 years is a proven strategy, not to mention that it actually goes all the way back to direct mail, which has been around since the beginning of the 20th century. So going with something like list building, you can't lose. And sure, like the technology changes and like email filters change and this and that. However, the overall strategy is still the same. Get them into your world, start communicating with them regularly through this media, and allow them to form this connection with you and eventually become a client through this constant, consistent communication.
What you're talking about, when I think about it, like I've been doing interviews with guys like Joe from Agora, and these are companies that make multi hundreds of millions of dollars, and they are doing the same thing. They are getting a list together. They have an email list and a direct mailing list. They are selling front end products. And in fact, Joe told me that they were willing to take a loss for 6 months on the front end product because they know about the 6 month mark, they go into the profit, and then they continue selling on the back end. So it's a basic formula of grow the list, nurture the list, and sell to the list. And this is hundreds of millions of dollars this company's making. And it's different tools, but the same concept.
Yeah, and obviously, anyone who starts out online does not have the luxury of having like what 6 months to stay in the red. Like some of the bigger companies, like Guthy Ranker, who that sells
Yeah.
proactive, right?
Yeah.
So they stay in the red for 8 months, and so like you got to have really deep pockets for that. However, like you should expect to treat this as a marathon, right? It's not a sprint, this business. It's a marathon. And you can't be looking for the next big hit. You can't be looking for the next instantaneous change overnight because these usually don't exist. Anything that lasts is a process which you create over a course of time, and you then spend a lot of time maintaining it as well, which is another element people don't quite understand. For some reason, everyone thinks that you kind of hit the home run and then you just sit back and relax as if there is no more work afterwards.
More like a series of base hits if you're lucky.
So yeah, you got to get in the field, got to get out there, start swinging, and every single freaking day. That's how it works. I love this Gary Vaynerchuk quote. He said, "People people wanna stay indoors or like rest on Saturdays or something." And for him, a Saturday is a Monday. Like he doesn't really care what day of the week it is. Like he's grinding and hustling every single day. Now, think how profound that is, coming from a guy who's like an angel investor and creator of like tons of different best-selling products, an author, etc. Like most people who admire guys like Gary Vaynerchuk aren't willing to work as hard as he does. They just like the idea of the attachment. Like they just keep themselves attached to what he preaches, but they never really do anything about it, do they? Which
Yeah,
takes us back to the fear of failure and the fear of success. Again, these are really deep concepts which we're not able to really crack open on the show, but they do exist, and they are not to be ignored.
no kidding, man. So, Igor, anything else you want to say as we're wrapping up, or do you want to tease what you have coming up for next time?
Well, I just wanna circle back to the big idea of this episode, which is don't go looking for the next shiny object. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your money seeking the new thing all the time. Keep growing, but not because you feel that you're running late, right? That you're late to the show and that there's a new thing coming out which I gotta get on. But instead, educate yourself on the principles and the strategies and the methods that have been field tested for decades and centuries, not on the stuff that just came out yesterday, right? And once you've established yourself, once got your income, once you got your client base, right? Once you are settled and you're secure, then you can go and experiment with the new stuff. But until then, you really have to be careful with your time and your attention because it's easy to get sucked into this whirlpool of bright shiny objects.
Yeah, there's something to be said about maximizing the stuff that's working. And as entrepreneurs, I believe I've been guilty of it. I'm sure you've been guilty of it. We get bored kind of quickly and we don't maximize what's already working before we jump onto something else. So I'm glad that you brought that up, Igor. What do you have coming up for us next time?
Next time, I have the pleasure of interviewing Tom Beal, my mentor, my coach, good friend, one of my best friends, and someone who spoke on stage like 50 different countries, wrote a book. He's been the JV manager for Rich Schefren. He worked closely with Jay Abraham. The guy pretty much knows everybody in the industry, and he's been around for like 20 years. So he's just a walking treasure chest of knowledge. And for anyone that's trying to make tries to make heads and tails of this thing called the home-based business success, Tom Beal is the messiah as far as I'm concerned. So I'm excited to be giving you guys the Tom Beal episode in a bit.
Wow, I'm just wondering what took you so long to get him on the show. Can't wait for that. So that is a wrap for another List Building Lifestyle. We will be back in your earbuds next time.
Thank you for listening to the List Building Lifestyle. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes or Google Play to never miss an episode. Because who knows, just one conversion tactic we share on the show might double your list and double your business. Download the transcript of today's episode and all future episodes at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. And don't forget to claim your complimentary copy of the Wealthy List Builder Survival Guide at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com/survival. This is Igor Kheifets, and until next time we talk, have a good one.
This is the podcastfactory.com.